Will come to order. Good afternoon, Commissioners. It is our monthly Anderson County Budget Committee meeting for Thursday, May 6th at 4 o'clock p.m. Rob, if you would, please call the roll.
Commissioner Denenberg,
Present.
Commissioner Creasy,
Present.
Commissioner Waddell,
Present.
Commissioner Smallridge,
Present.
Commissioner White. Commissioner Jameson, absent, and Commissioner Fritz is absent, and Commissioner Val.
Here, let it be known we do have a quorum.
Right.
If we would, please, if y'all will join me in prayer, and then we will ask Commissioner Smallridge, if you would, to lead us in the pledge, lead us to the flag. Heavenly Father, we once again thank you for all of your many blessings. We thank you, Father, for always being with us. We thank you, Lord, for saving us to where we'll always follow your guidance, Lord, in all parts of our life. Please forgive us, Lord, where we fail you, times, God, and we don't do as you would have us to do. We pray, Father, as we enter into this meeting, that you would be with each heart, each mind, as we discuss the business of your people. Help us to make the decisions that are right in your sight. All this we ask in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Join me in the pledge. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Jameson and Commissioner Fritz are present. All right, go ahead.
Thank you.
I don't think anybody's gonna wanna take it, Jerry.
Thank you, Commissioners. If you would indulge me, we do need, if it's all right, we're going to go ahead and call up from the bottom of the agenda under sections Commissioner Rick Meredith, who is here to discuss with us a possible funding of a program that is going to be facilitated by the Helen Ross McNabb Center. Commissioner Meredith, if you would come forth with your guest, please. I believe that microphone is working.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate you moving me up the agenda as things get back to normal. The chamber's getting back to normal. I actually have an event this evening, so I have to be at 5. Tonight, I would like to bring forward the McNabb Center. I've got Ms. Beth Farrell, Ms. Jerry Houston here from that center. They came and met with me for the chamber as well as a commissioner about a program that they're doing in Hamlin County with women. I'm not going to steal their thunder and let them explain it, but they'd like to request some funding of a pilot program. So without further ado, they've met with Sheriff Barker, Lieutenant Val on some of this. So I'm going to not steal them. I'm going to give them 3 or 4 minutes to explain that to you, and then I'll be here for any questions. So, Jerry?
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Commissioners, for giving us the opportunity to present today. My name is Jerry Wagner. I'm the CEO of the McNabb Center. I've been with that organization for 33 years, so it's my professional home. We are the oldest mental health center in the state of Tennessee and have a tremendous amount of experience working with people who have mental health conditions and alcohol and drug conditions. We have participated in a program since 2017 in Hamlin County in partnership with that government to help women who are incarcerated with substance use issues move from jail to the community and from the community on their own. So that's the emphasis of this program. We call it very creative, jail to work. Can appreciate what that might mean. So as a jail to work program, we are working with about 30 to 35 women annually They're identified in the jail by the judicial system and the sheriff's department, public defender, for women who have substance use issues, who do have felonies and other related crimes, and who are identified in needing this sort of treatment to transition successfully from the jail to the community. We offer substance use treatment, mental health treatment, and they reside with us during that 12-week period. The thing that's really significant about this is 100% of the women will get treatment, 100% of the women will obtain a license and identification during that period of time, and then we're requiring them to get employment and a job. Over the course of now what amounts to 3.5 years, we've got an 87% success rate. For us, that means the women transition successfully to us, complete our 12-week program, get a job, get an independent place to live, and live in the community successfully. We also work with the judicial system, sheriff's departments, so that we track and see if they reoffend. And the women we're working with have a tremendous success rate of not reoffending and going back into the incarcerated situation. So that's the big overview of the program. Probably you would be interested in its outcomes as well. During that 9 weeks, 100% seek employment, 100% obtain a Social Security card or other birth certificate, which, as you know, is required for any level of benefits in the community. They receive treatment. 94 women have participated year to date. They've also returned over $28,000 in court fees and associated retribution that they're supposed to pay back to the court system. So we make that a condition of their participation as well. We have added to that some residential placements for them so that they do have a transitional place to live, and that's just one other benefit that we've afforded that community. We have, with the federal grant, expanded this to women in Sevier County as well. They come actually to Hamlin County to do that. Of course, we would want this to be a program in this community for this community and reside here. So I'll stop there and see if you all have any questions for me.
Any questions from the committee? Commissioner Dennenberg, go ahead, ma'am.
What type of rate do you have as far as women not going back to being reincarcerated?
Yeah, at this point, the rate of success is 87%.
That's excellent.
It's tremendous, and I really attribute that to good identification of the sheriff's department, identifying women who are motivated, and then have proper engagement with us and our treatment staff.
What type of programs do they go through for the 12 weeks?
So they'll go through what we call an intensive outpatient substance use program during that period of time, which amounts to 3 hours of treatment a day, 5 days a week. In addition to that, they'll get skills development training during that course of care. They all reside together during that 12-week period of time and are responsible for their personal chores and associated community activities. So they've got responsibility when they're with us, and it is personal responsibility that they have.
What about the type of training that they may get as far as being able to hold down a job?
Yeah. So we require them to have some basic computer skills training. You know, in this world, we all have to have that skill set. Mm-hmm. We also do practice interviewing for them. And then we also accompany them to job placement options. And we've had a dozen or so employers in that community who want to hire our folks. The best story that I can tell you is Koch Brothers has a chicken factory in that particular community. They've had a hard time hiring people who can't pass a drug screen. Our women can always pass a drug screen because they're clean. And then they get hired on. Here it is 3 years later, some of the people who are supervisors in that particular company are now interviewing new women for potential job placement. So we think that's a just tremendous testimony to their ability to not only work and contribute to the community, but also to really be of value back to the community.
Well, what kind of encouragement are they given or opportunities to expand their education?
Yeah.
We have our TCAT
Yeah.
relationship too.
We have a relationship with the local university there. It's a two-year college, so they're encouraged in that way. They also have TCAT opportunities for technical training. And so those relationships are what we will reach out in any community that we're in and make sure we're connecting them to those resources. the best thing we can do is maximize what's already here and just facilitate that connection for these women.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I would like to mention too, we talked about employment opportunities. We've talked with several people, sorry, I thought my voice was. I'm Beth Farrow, I'm with the McNabb Center. And I wanted to add to what Mr. Wagner said. We have reached out to SL Tennessee about employing employing these women, and they would be more than happy to do that. They're nonviolent offenders, and even though some of them carry felonies, they're more than happy to employ the women. So.
Any other questions from committee? Commissioner
Yeah,
Smallridge?
I'm just wondering, what are the criteria for accepting someone into the program? And do you have to turn people away?
We have a tremendous amount of women who apply, more than can be taken into the program. So the selection process will have basically a committee that is representation from the judicial system, the sheriff's department, our staff, and in this case also the mayor's office as well. And they interview the women. And then through that interview process, they decide which candidates they believe to be best candidates for that class, if you will. And if they don't make that class, they can reapply.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? Commissioner Meredith?
So, Mr. Chairman, what I would like to is ask maybe they want some funding for the pilot program that we want. There's a lot of hoops to go through. I'd like to ask for $50,000. Obviously, if this money's not used, it would just go back in our general fund. Put it in the sheriff's department, let them work, let them get this kicked off. It'll show our side of the fence to ask for the private funding with SL and our other employers here in the county. So that's the ask I have of this committee.
Any further questions for Commissioner Meredith or any of them from Helen Ross McNabb?
Not for me.
So do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Denenberg to approve $50,000 to be, I'll do the proper wording on that, Rick, to set aside to.
Yeah, to give them time, our time to make this commitment, and then we go to the private side. It's a public-private program, it's that. So it helps them get this started. We can work with the mayor and the other pieces that go with this. This just helps with the seed money.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smallridge. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Fritz?
it's not, again, not that there's not a worthy cause, but we keep bringing things before this commission time after time again, and we made a stance that we were not going to fund various things like this. This was, we did away with the nonprofit committee, and there's a lot of groups that come before us that we quit funding. And this is $50,000 of taxpayers' dollars that that was not being set aside. If we're going to do this, we need to evaluate and have a thing of whether we're going to have this, reestablish the nonprofit committee, and look at everybody that's coming before us, whether we turn them down and reevaluate them all, and treat everyone equally and fairly. We're not doing that. I'm always, and have always been, someone who said, let's put everybody on equal ground and treat everyone equally and fairly. And we're not doing that. And it's not that someone is not worthy and is not a good organization and don't do a lot of good things. They all are. They all do the good things, but we're not doing everyone the same.
Thank you, Commissioner Fritz. Any further discussion? Commissioner Waddell?
I'm going to have to agree with Commissioner Fritz. I think this is a worthy cause. I think it's something we do need to look at. But at this time, like Commissioner Fritz says, we just turned down the Isaiah House recently, and it is a great program that obviously needs help and for the children of the community. But it is taxpayer funds, and I voted no on all of them, and I'm going to have to vote no on this one, unfortunately. But I think we are to look, if we're going to continue to do this, we do need to have the committee and go through it the proper channels.
Thank you, Commissioner Waddell. Any further discussion? Commissioner Creasy, go ahead, sir.
Was this on the agenda?
Yes, sir. It was down at the bottom. We moved it to the top because of Rick's schedule.
Okay, yeah.
You can pull down your microphone, please.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
I thought you had a question. I'm sorry, Gary.
You're fine.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Danenberg.
Again, Commissioner Fritz and Commissioner Wandell are correct. However, when we have programs like this that are going to directly benefit people in our community that really need the help to be productive citizens of this community, I think it's something we really need to start taking a look at. And if it's a situation where we need to bring back a committee, then so be it. But we've got to start doing what we can when we can. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Waddell.
If this is approved, I would like to make sure that we are only sending Anderson County residents to that and not, I mean, we have a huge jail population that's from other counties. So, like I said, I think it's a worthy cause. It's just a matter of the way that this commission has promised their taxpayers we're going to act from here on out. But if it is approved, I would just like for part of the motion to be that it's only Anderson County residents and not Knox County or wherever.
I certainly have no objection to adding that as part of the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. That makes it a lot more simple for me and Robbie, I believe. Any further discussion? Is that okay with the second?
Yes, it is. Just a clarification, this is a one-time grant, right? It's not
Yes, sir.
something that would automatically be continued
This is
as
just to pilot the
a
program.
pilot seed
To see,
program.
it will come back before this body and commission for further funding. If it doesn't work, we all just say stays in our coffers, it's not spent. It's a commitment that for us to take to the private world and say, okay, we're in, are you in? I agree with Commissioner Fritz. I sat up here with you guys on Budget Committee. I feel the nonprofit pain. I hear that every day in my job. I hear your point, and you're right, there's several organizations. But with this one, helping our citizens, workforce development, and partnering with the Sheriff's Department, it's a collaborative effort, to Commissioner Denenberg's point. You know, if you want to make a part of the motion that if we come before this committee before any funds are even spent, but at least give them a chance to see if this is going to work. So that's what I would say.
Any further discussion? I will add one point. I had the privilege of meeting with representatives from Helen Ross McNabb. Matter of fact, the nice lady that spoke has ties to our area. Some of y'all in the school system may know her father, Tommy Braden, that taught in our school system for a long time, principal at Briceville. After discussing with them the prior knowledge of how the goals of any correctional facility work, times have certainly changed toward more rehabilitative efforts in order to hopefully reduce inmate population. I can't sit up here and attest to you that all of them are effective as far as our definition of effectiveness goes, but I will say that I do believe it's a worthy effort that we should try. And if it is going to help us reduce the inmate population at the county jail, I think we and the taxpayers would all see a benefit from it. So that's my 2 cents put in there. Any further discussion? Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah, I'd like to get the names of the 2 people that spoke. I didn't get their names.
Certainly Jerry Wagner.
How you spell your last name?
V as in victory, A-G-N-I-E-R.
I-E-R.
N-I-E-R.
Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome. And if I could say one other comment relative to this discussion. One of the reasons that the county mayor in Hamlin County is invested in this is because the money that is saved through the number of days that they're not incarcerated and the resources in the community that go toward arrest and all those other judicial things, the cost to the community is greatly saved, and the cost of the program is exceeded by those savings.
Beth Farrow, F as in Frank, A-R-R-O-W. And I just want to piggyback off what he said. These are statistics from Mayor Britton in Hamilton County. The figures that he gave us, the cost to incarcerate 32 women for 1 year in Hamilton County is $456,000. And the cost for us to treat 32 women in this program to participate in jail work is $212,000. So over a total of 3 years, that is a savings of $732,000 to Hamilton County.
Thank you.
One more question.
Commissioner Waddell,
I'm on the fence here, so one more question.
you're on the fence?
Yeah, I am. First of all, is this something the sheriff's department is in agreeance to? Is what? I mean, yeah, either one of you, Commissioner Val.
Captain
Our
Commissioner.
participation would be assisting them in picking which female inmates would qualify for their program. The sheriff's office, as you well know, did not have funding in order to be able to devote to this, so that's why Rick is here.
So how does this differ from our drug court? I mean, because the candidates are gonna be kind of the same, right?
It would be drawn from the same pool, that's for sure, the inmate population, so there would be some that would qualify that would go enter the drug court program, I'm assuming, and some that would qualify for this one.
Yeah, so the way this works in Hamilton County is they're under conditional release to us, to the McNabb Center. They live with us on our property. And once they complete the program, then their charges are dropped.
Beth, what does it normally cost per person through the rehabilitation?
For us,
Yeah. Well, I mean, how far is this $50,000 gonna go?
the $50,000 is probably going to go, well, the thing is we're going to have to raise some private and public money as well. So we need to raise, to operate this for 1 year, we probably need to raise about $300,000. So that would come from businesses and other philanthropy in the community.
How many people would that do for a year? $300,000?
32.
32.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
Nope.
No.
Say 2 noes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Robert, did you get the names?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, Commissioners, we will now get back to item number 1 on the agenda, the cash and fund balance report. Eric, hopefully, we'll get sir.
Thank you. In the cash and fund balance report is, the security funds are $748,291, committed funds, $2,065,498, assigned funds are $2,029,147, and unassigned fund balance is at $5,991,858, bringing the total fund balance to $20,834,794. Cash is at $17,583,282, which is up $5.5 million from last year at this time.
Robbie, can you repeat that?
Cash
How much?
at 5.5, almost 6 million.
Thanks, sir.
Any questions about the cash and fund balance? Okay, sales tax. I gave you each of you a new sales tax report. Set from Mr. Watt here. Sounds like that on part of the top, where you can compare to last March. This March, for Anderson County as a whole, in the cities and everything, we're at $3,635,014, which is up 11% from last March. The county as a whole is up 50%. We were at $488,539 compared to last March at $323,620. So sales tax continues to come in really well. And now we're projected this year to finish the year at if our projections hold, 1.7 million in sales tax collection.
Any questions for Robbie on the cash and fund balance report? On the sales tax report?
Not from me.
Hearing none, we'll continue on with appropriations and transfer.
Appropriations, number 2, the consent agenda, the transfers not requiring full commission approval. There's 1 through 22. Seeking approval as a group, or I can answer any questions about any of them.
Move for approval as a group.
Commissioner Smallridge moves for approval, items 1 through 22. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, sir. Robbie,
Yes, ma'am.
number 17. Do we have any idea what the specific supplies are that are needed to be purchased?
I'm assuming supplies for to keep up with their broadcast schedule.
Is there anyone here from ACTV
Only
to?
maybe Andy.
What is it you're wanting to buy, Andy?
Part-time help for graduation.
Oh,
We could have our employees to help us, part-time employees help us during graduation, and for some equipment.
what kind of equipment?
That you'll have to refer to Ryan Sutton.
Never mind.
Director of ACT. He's not here tonight.
I noticed that. All right, thank you on that one. And the other one I had a question about was number 18.
Yes, I did that one.
I know that.
So when we
Is there
did
any
the,
specifics that you wanted to offer up on $157,000?
yes, I will tell you what.
Thank
When we
you.
did the 177, 3 years ago when we had the budget that we voted to put the 5 pennies in there. We put it all in 707 building improvements. Well, sometimes some of the POs I'm getting aren't for building improvements, and this gives us more flexibility if we move some of the funds to other capital outlay. Because everything they're doing in capital outlay is not a building improvement, so it's hard for me to approve a PO out of a building improvement code. We need money in another code to, and this one's pretty,
What type of other things are there?
I wish, one time what brought it on was they tried to buy a vehicle out of building improvements, and I said no. So I sent it back, and they found it in their budget, and they didn't bring it back, but
Okay.
that started the discussion, and then we just decided that really, most everything they do is building improvements. Sometimes it's floor, gym floors or roofing and stuff like that, but there are some other smaller items that are not always building
All right,
improvements.
thank you, sir.
Any further discussion on items 1 through 22? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay. Numbers 23 and 24 are appropriations and a transfer from the school department.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Denenberg moves to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay, number 4 is from the highway department. It's appropriation for $80,000 from the restricted funds, moving money in stone.
Move to
20,000 equipment parts, 20,000 in the culvert, $40,000.
I'll second.
Commissioner Waddell moves to approve. Commissioner Denenberg seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Okay, number 26 is from finance. It's to pay for trustees commission, $3,500, and we're just increasing interest and penalty, $3,500.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Denenberg moves to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Waddell. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay, page 27, number 27 is from the Conservation Commission, $11,000 from their committed for general government, restricted for general government, parks and recreation, to other equipment. They're currently using mowers that they're kind of piecing together with scrap parts, and their committee approved Monday to purchase this vehicle, lawnmower. And Ben has obtained 3 bids, and I think it's going to come in under 11,000, but to be safe, we And what they don't use will roll back into the restricted funds.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Creasy moves to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Appropriations 28 through 31 are from the mayor. I can take these individually or as a group.
Pleasure of the committee. Go ahead.
Move is for approval as a group.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve as a group. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay, number 32 is a transfer from the Channel 95 for part-time help. This is the one that Andy was talking about, that, and they're moving money out of medical insurance, $6,475.
Bobby, which
Go ahead,
item?
Andy.
I also have information for exactly what
32.
you're referring to.
Oh, okay.
Ah, got it. I was right on it. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Some of our odds and ends pieces to replace, like cables and stuff like that, HDMI, other cables like that. Also for some of the shirts and stuff for our crew. Like right here we get polos, so everybody's kind of matching and you know who everybody is. And last but not least, props for our set at our new studio. So we have to keep growing with that because we're doing more and more content and need to change setups and stuff. So we're trying to get it looking like a real studio now.
Thank you, Andy.
Very well.
Any further discussion on item 32? I believe we had a motion and a second, didn't we?
I didn't get that.
Do we have a motion to approve on item 32? Getting ahead of
Motion to
myself.
approve.
Commissioner Denenberg moves to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fritz. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay, number 33 is from the Sheriff's Department. It's increasing private contracted services, $17,100, and decreasing other contracted services, $17,100. This transfer will cover the annual maintenance cost for the in-car camera system. This is a transfer between major lines.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Fritz moves to approve. Do we have a second? Commissioner Denenberg seconds. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Commissioner Waddell.
Hey, Tyler, on this, the maintenance is, what does that cover? Is it parts and replacement, or are they gonna come out and fix them when they're broke, or?
That's part of it. The amount
Good
here is the
question.
cloud storage that we're having to buy because, Brian could probably attest. I think last year in the old camera system, we used 7 terabytes in an entire year, and we're barely on the new one, 60 days maybe, and we're already at 1 terabyte. So the cloud storage was, it's just imperative to be able to save those. And Brian may be able to allude some of the tech talk. That's a little bit above my knowledge set.
I'll give you one for instance. Yesterday, one of the cruisers that comes in on their night shift, they recorded 39 gigs of data in one night, one car. At that rate, we have to have cloud storage. We can't fund enough equipment to continue writing that kind of data every night, and that's one car. We have a server that you all provided last year that we've put in. It holds 17 trillion bytes of data. I think we projected last night that'll probably take us down the road for about 7 months at this rate. We won't even make a fiscal year with that if we store it in-house. And that's 17 trillion bytes of data. So I recommend highly we do some external storage with groups that have the ability to contain that much data. Because we're talking I think in a year was over 100 trillion bytes that we'll store from all these cruisers, so.
So is this unlimited, Brian?
What, that
Is-
cloud?
Yeah.
Oh, that depends on, I mean, there's a limit to everything, but it comes down to financial and how far you go with how much you buy.
So with 17,000, what is that going to get us?
As far as the terabyte storage?
Yeah.
I believe it was 100 terabytes from the beginning. That should take us a complete year or close to it. We may need to adjust. This is a new set of software for all these cars. We went week or so ago and adjusted down the bit rate of what they're recording at, because you can control what quality they record. So we've been practicing trying to find the best quality for the amount of data we're retaining. So we're still adjusting a little bit, but we hope we'll get a full year for that. And then we'll have to come back. I think there'll be some edits to that, but this is a first shot, I guess.
So it can be a trial run, then we get it in the budget where it's very good.
Commissioner Denenberg.
Don't go anywhere, Brian.
Thank you.
Would you please explain to those of us who don't know what the world you're talking about as far as terabytes, how much, this one cruiser that came in last night, or
Yes.
whenever, what was he recording for, and how much of time, minutes, hours?
There's, I believe it's 4 processes that will turn the cameras on. They don't just record while the
Okay.
car's on. If they turn their sirens on, if they make a call into dispatch.
Okay.
If I believe there's activity near the vicinity of the vehicle within a certain
So that
amount of feet.
automatically happens, it's not where he has, or she has to flip a switch?
They
to-
cannot. That's
Okay,
part of the
all
whole
right.
process. The person, or the officer driving the vehicle can't really turn that off. They would
Okay.
have to disable the batteries to cause that. So it's going to record no matter what, under those circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Where we've turned it down is to try to get less data in that recording, where if you go too far with that, you start losing quality on the image. So we're trying to find the good spot between the two, and I think we're at that place. I think Larry's got a
Okay.
good position where we're at now.
All right, that really answered my question as far as why were they recording so
Well, I
much and
think,
what
too,
caused it to happen?
This camera's a little different than what we've had in the past, where it recorded front and back. This camera is a 360 angle
Wow.
to catch everything. That's,
How many cars are fitted out with,
so the 360 will be 33, I believe, if I'm not. And then our transportation cars and some other of our cars that may have to transport either prisoners or mental health or for anything like that, they just have the basic front and back. But our patrolman will have the 360.
It even has a camera on the inside of the car facing the person in the car that might have been transported at that moment, which we did not have.
Right.
oh, that's good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused because it sounds like we're purchasing something.
The cameras have been purchased. This is just us entering into an agreement through Provision, who is the camera company. They use Microsoft Azure data storage. So this is just us getting within the contract to get the cloud. So whenever we need and to utilize the cloud, that data will just store on there.
Well, I misunderstood it. The way it reads, I'm assuming that we was talking about a maintenance contract, yearly maintenance contract, where they would, and the questions that Commissioner to my side here asked was a very good question. But it's,
A lot of the maintenance of the equipment was covered under the contract that we're currently in already with Provision, and the money that has already been paid for the purchase of all of the equipment that's being installed.
how much is the annual maintenance contract for these?
There's not an annual maintenance, it's part of this data storage. But within the contract, them coming to work on those, and also the benefit of having IT with Brian and 2 guys on staff, they're highly trained to work and tweak on those. But if we have issues with the camera itself, part of the contract is we send those back, they work on them, they can, send them back, or we get new ones.
and I apologize for asking the questions because I have full trust in you and Brian on what you're saying, but we have an audience that watches this on TV, and they want to watch their tax dollars. And
Absolutely.
so they may not understand exactly what we were talking about like I didn't. So that's the reason I'm asking
No,
questions.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smallridge.
Yeah, just kind of a related question. Do our officers have body cams?
We do not. There's a lot of reasons that we don't. And I won't be able to touch all of them because I may miss some, but the thing about body cams from a financial perspective is that let's say when Sergeant Waddell goes into a home, that body cam hits. Well, there may be PPI or anything or PHI of a citizen that's laying on a table or on in the bedroom where they're at. We have to have someone that's dedicated to just redacting those. I mean, Knox County has 2 or 3 employees, and all they do is sit at a computer and go through body cam footage to redact things that are not allowed to be shown in the event of something like that. That's why we went with the 360. We're not always, and they can speak to this more, but most incidents typically happen outside and around the vehicle. So that's why we elevated our in-car camera to try to cover as much of that as possible. But the body cams it'd be rather expensive to purchase, to store, and then we'd also have to have employees dedicated just to redacting that footage.
Could they be used selectively, like at an accident or a crime, rather than in the homes? And
No, sorry, again, Commissioner Waddell could speak better to that. I don't think so. I think it's either, go ahead.
If you've got it, you got to use it, pretty much. The courts have been rather clear about even documenting that you have a malfunction with your camera. If you have a camera and you don't use it, anything that pretty much any evidence that you had, they won't even hear it in court. So it's the body cameras are great, and I would love to see this. I'd love to see the county commission fund them, but like Tyler said, even as simple as if you walk into a home, or if there's a juvenile on scene, or a piece of mail laying on the table, family photos, all of that stuff has to be redacted before it's released, and anybody can come in at any time and request those things. So that's why it's very important. You don't want certain things in the privacy of your own home for someone to be able to come down and request that video. So it would be a lot of work, be a lot of money and a lot of work. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but I'm sure the sheriff's department would be pleased if you all would fund this. But
Thank you. Thanks.
Any further discussion?
I have one question.
Good comment.
Go ahead, Rob.
Tyler, is this a recurring expense?
So this
Sounds
is,
a little confused about
Very
that.
simple.
well,
Understand it.
the amount is undetermined. I mean, right now it's the 17,000. This was the best option that we had before us at this time. I know that Brian and Larry and all of us are going to reevaluate at the end of the year. So to say this would be this amount, but it will be a reoccurring expense. We just don't know what that amount is. I would love to get it down because I pitched a fit before I even came here when I saw the amount. But I mean, it's
So very difficult. From a year from now, we have it for till
yes,
May of next year.
yeah. We've not. We have to. Yeah, we would have it for a calendar year from when we get it.
Any further discussion?
No, I understand.
Tyler or Brian, once video is saved, just in layman's terms, do we have to keep it forever? Or there come a time when we can delete some of the storage that we have to open up for more video to be stored?
So That, I mean, I would probably defer to Jay on that one because there are, the Records Management Act has so much criteria for so many different things. I wouldn't be comfortable throwing out an answer.
There is a length of time. I'm not for sure what it is.
I know
A lot
there's
of it's
a
3 or 5
year,
years,
There's
but-
a year, there's a 3, there's a 5, there's a 7.
Yeah.
I don't know
it's-
what this would fall under.
I would imagine it's a minimum of 5.
With this, Brian, I guess, with this, will they hold this for as long as we need it, or will they decide when they're gonna delete it, or?
That's where it comes into the expense versus how long we keep it versus how much we're keeping. This is all part of what we want and what we need. The more we use, the more it's gonna cost.
Right, and if we don't use all of the, whatever the number was, 17,000, was that it? If we, yeah, 17,100, if we don't use all that, it rolls over to next year, right?
It should. Yeah, I mean, it's, the 17,000 gives us X amount of data, for all the cars. We're going back and forth in terms of, can we pay this? Do we pay this for the entire year? And then, like you said, we can roll that back in. I mean, it just goes into the next year, or can we pay as you go? Larry and I think Brian would probably feel more comfortable just to pay it, because at that point, we're not running into any type of issue with invoices, billing. It's there.
Right.
So.
One of the issues we're facing, it gives us hard to put a thumb exactly on the number, is the cars vary. The cars are varying when they come in. You might have one shift there wasn't much going on, they got 7 gigs. But then the next car, same night, got 30, 20, it just depends. The number's not a same number every time. Every car's different when they pull up that night. I've never seen the number be the same. So it's hard the first time we do this, to come up with an exact figure. But as we get more into this, we'll see what they're charging as opposed to what our driver or our officers are pulling in with. And we will get more data as this comes in. But right now, it's such a new product, the averages, there's just not enough to give us a total yet. We just don't know yet.
One more.
Commissioner Smart.
Yeah, just thinking a little more on body cams. I think about some of the incidents where body cams have been crucial to decisions, and I'd be interested in knowing what it would cost, actually, even a rough estimate of what it would cost to implement a body cam program in Anderson County. And
Yeah, I don't have those, I'm not fluent enough, I haven't looked at it in a little bit. We've had this discussion, we've met about body cams, and we've gone down that road, but I'm happy to put something together and shoot it out to the Budget Committee or the Commission as a whole, just to give you a snapshot of what it would look like.
Thanks.
And Commissioner Smaller, just remember, when you talk about body cameras, there are about 2 different brands of body cameras that are even worth buying. And if you don't buy them, they are the most expensive, and that's why. And if you don't buy them, you're wasting your money, because we've had body cameras before and they've not lasted. So they really have to be top of the line to be durable enough to be, on a cop's chest in fights and everything else. So weather, all those things.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know this is not the time for it, but if there is an opportunity, I would like to address the committee tonight at some point regarding inmates and our housing at the jail.
All right.
So there will be a change in the budget.
All right, we'll call you right back up. We do have a motion and a second on this motion, correct? Any further discussion on item number 33? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Tyler, I guess now is as good a time as any. Go ahead.
Also want to apologize for my coaching attire. I'm used to being behind the phone and not, my wife was like, "You're going to budget like that?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, that is right. It is live, ain't it?" But anyway, So just to give you a brief update of kind of what has been transpiring at the detention facility, I would like to say over the last several months, but it's really just kind of happened to us. The state of Tennessee recently, through many different things, COVID, just ending of sentences, and Governor Lee has a pretty aggressive criminal justice reform. State inmate population in prisons has dropped significantly. And statutorily, they were required to stay, I believe it's at 80% or more capacity, and they fell way below that. So what the state did, as they like to do, is pick up the phone and said, hey, we're coming. We went from mid-100s of state inmates, which is a revenue source for this county, to overnight being to 78. We hope that it stopped there, but we just don't know. So I know that Robbie and I have discussed the prisoner boarding line item in the past. We won't probably feel it as hard until we keep going. But that number is going to be low. When COVID hit, courts, in essence, stopped, especially at the state level. There were not a lot of jury trials, not a lot of pleas. They just stopped. So our state inmate population, even prior to the state coming in and taking TDOC eligible inmates, it just kept slowly going down. What we also have noticed is just through COVID, our inmate population as a whole is just low. When we came before you 2 years ago and asked to open Unit 1 because we literally were busting at the seams, the state was telling us, y'all are going to have to do something. You're going to have to do something. We were in the mid-400s, getting close to 5. On some weekends, we'd get close to 5. So here we are today. We have, I think, 80 state inmates. We're just at around 300 total inmates at the jail. That'll fluctuate, as you all know. But we're pretty low. We have not utilized Unit 1 that as we had hoped. As I say that we had hoped, it's good not to have a lot of inmates because it does help with costs. But Sheriff Barker, he will actually is going to hope to speak to the commission in 2 weeks. But we made a very strict promise to the committee and to the commission 2 years ago that if we got to a point that we did not have a need for that personnel and that money, that we would cut it from our budget and return it. We have been looking at this for several weeks and made the decision that based on our discussions with the state of Tennessee, based on just where we're at in terms of, courts moving, as you know, Judge Elledge is retiring. That transition and that process will play out. Cases, are not being heard as much as normal. That we feel like it is important to honor that promise that we made a couple of years ago and to give that money back to the county. I'm not going to stand here and say that in 3 or 4 years that we're not going to be up here saying, hey, we're busting at the seams again. I can't make that prediction. But what I can say is that for the foreseeable future, after discussing it with the state, with Captain Val, Chief Parker, and others, that we don't see it changing for a while. And I think it would be wrong for us as a department to sit on roughly $300,000 to $400,000 where it could be utilized elsewhere for the county. So that's what we are going to do. Again, this body can say, no, you're staying as is. That's your prerogative, and we'll go with it. But we are going to submit an amended budget to Robbie that will show for going from 89 employees down to, I believe it was 82 or 81, which is what we had asked for back in 18. Just because we feel like that's the fiscal thing, right thing to do, and two, we made that vow to you guys, and when you all graciously gave us that money. So I would have definitely prepped you prior to just now, but honestly, it's been a decision we've been wrestling with for since Bob McKee from the state started raining on our parade. So it will have an impact on revenue. It will significantly. But what we will believe is that impact will be saved through the money that we returned in cutting our budget, and should see a decrease in, because the mouths we're feeding is less, because we do pay per meal per day is how the contract is. Our medical contract will be renegotiated, not by a lot, because again, that's something that we don't need to get out of hand, but there will be some savings there to help offset that revenue loss that we're currently experiencing and that we will experience. Because when we made that revenue projection was when Ms. Erb was here, and she and I sat in her office and really tried to arrive at the number that we arrived at, and we got there. And I think Robbie could tell you that we're not there. We're not close, and we won't be close. So just wanted to give you all that information and give you the heads up when Robbie probably would tell you guys, but wanted you to hear from us, and I think Sheriff Barker would like to address the full commission next Monday, if allowed, to go into further detail and let you all know what our plans are.
And I'll add this, we were not the only county that received that notification from DOC. It was all 95. They're calling all the counties to tell them we're coming to get your state inmates. And I hope everybody understands how unique of a situation this is. I've been working in jails for going on 30 years. Most of the time, we're calling them, begging them to let us bring inmates to them, and they're saying no. There's an old urban legend that I think the sheriff finally got confirmed about a sheriff down in West Tennessee that took them to his prison and chained them to the gates and said, you're taking them whether you like them or not. This is so unique that the state is calling us, telling us you don't have a choice. We're taking your state inmate. So it's
interesting. Bob McKee's one of the first guys we met when the sheriff got elected, because the sheriff was concerned about the number of state inmates that we had and the overcrowding of their own prisons. And Bob McKee kind of looked at us and just shrugged his shoulders. And I mean, he's a great guy, but just said, hey, look, I'm sorry. And it's just weird, 2 years later, he's the guy that's calling us to saying, hey, by the way, we're coming to get our kids. So, again, it's not something we foresaw at all, but at least now that we're here, I think it's the right thing to do.
Any questions for Director Mays? Commissioner Creasy?
This won't have an impact on the number of cars you use, will it?
No. Totally unrelated. Yeah.
Commissioner Waddell?
I don't know who, somebody can answer this, I'm sure. The money that the state pays, where does that go? Does it go into the sheriff's department budget, or does it come straight back to the county?
It goes into the state contracted prisoner boarding.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because I know that there's going to be less money coming in now, and I was wanting to make sure that wasn't going to be less money at the sheriff's department, that, you know, when they turn this money over, now we're going to have to find a way to fund this or so on. So
it's basically, it's just a balance sheet. I mean, they send in a check and it just goes into a revenue code. And when we made that, it was trying to offset the cost of the state inmates and by needing more corrections officers. So the revenue will go down, but we're also cutting those to help it go down.
very good.
Commissioner Smallridge?
Tyler, I understand what's happening with the state, but you also said we're losing maybe close to an equal number of local or?
I wouldn't say it's
No.
equal. It's just with COVID. I know that things will change once courts open back up, but it's just we've been with court-wise. I mean, especially at the state level, it's just been kind of at a standstill. You know, with arresting, that's now been picked back up, but for a while, I mean, we had, you know, with child support and some other type warrants that were out there, you know, because of the fear of COVID getting into the jail, it's spreading like wildfire. You know, it just wasn't happening. We are seeing an uptick a little more with county inmates, but again, it's not at the level of where we were 2.5 years ago, where, you know, we were sitting at 450 inmates. When we're 150 away from that now.
We could probably give a whole night's lesson about how the inmate population was affected by COVID and the cooperative efforts between the judicial system, General Clark and the DA's office, and just a whole gambit of people that came together. Unfortunately, we never expected TDOC to be calling and one
that
of
was
their
a
state
surprise.
inmates. Yeah, that.
So.
Any further discussion or any questions for Director Mays?
Yes.
Robbie, go ahead.
Just requesting those numbers sooner rather than later, because we really, our next budget meeting, we're scheduled for a public hearing, and it's, when we're making changes this late to the budget, it's hard. I mean, I don't know that we'll be able to do that now, but I need those numbers as soon as you can get them to me.
Yeah, it's as simple as delete and send.
'Cause it really kind of offsets each other, more or less. We're taking out of the expenditures, but we're also taking out of revenue, so it's going to be offsetting pretty much.
We were hoping.
And just to give you the numbers, 3 years ago, we had 2.4 million in contracted prisoner boarding. Last year, 1.9 million, and this year we're sitting at 1.1 million with 4 months to go, which projects out to 1.7. So we budget 2.2 million, so we're like $500,000 off this year. It'll probably be more than that, though, I'd say.
Oh, I'd say, for sure.
Any further discussion? Thank you, Director Mays. Next item on the agenda is item number 34 from the Law Director's Office. Am I on track, Robbie?
Yes, that's correct. It's from unassigned fund balance, $10,417.65 for going into the Law Director's Legal Services. This is Smith versus Anderson County, another invoice for that. And I did email you all the invoice. I decided not to put it in the budget packet because it becomes public record then and on our website, and I thought it could, you know, it's probably some things on there that don't need to be seen, so possibly.
Do we have a motion? Commissioner Dennenberg moves to approve item number 34. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smallridge. Commissioners, if we do have any discussion, I would request that we do keep the discussion very general, very mindful of the attorney-client
Yeah.
privilege. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no.
No.
One no. Just one?
Yeah.
You get that, Robbie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. And the last budget amendment we have is from the Family Justice Center, Randy Walters, Melissa Miller. It's establishes the budget from May 18th to September 30th for the OCJP VOCA Access to Services Grant, ADA for the Family Justice Center, Deaf Communication and Language Translation Services, signage, accessibility aids, etc. It's revenue that $14,790 we're getting, and also the unassigned fund balance, $3,698 for a match, I'm assuming. And increasing other contracted services, $5,520, other supplies and materials, $9,270, and a matching share for $3,698. And Randy can answer any questions because he's sitting right beside me. So it's great.
Commissioner Dennenberg moves to approve. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries.
Okay. Section A is the 21-22 proposed budgets. We have 6 budgets to approve today. The first one, and the biggest budget we have, is the general purpose schools. They have a balanced budget. The highlights, I assume, are it's a 4% pay increase for all employees, and that's pretty much everything. They did come in balanced, and I thought Dr. Parrott would be here to talk a lot about this, but he's not here, so I'm not sure.
Commissioner Dannenberg moves to approve. Do we have a second? Have a second by Commissioner Fritz. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries.
Okay, and then the other budgets are the 151 general debt service. It's $130,542 deficit, but it has a $1,839,262 reserve. The rural school debt service fund 152 has a $625,000, $336,000 deficit, but a $1.2 million reserve. And the 156 high school debt service fund has a $156,357 deficit with $423,000, a little over $423,000 reserve. The Anderson County Benefit Plan 263 is balanced with no increases to the county or employee. Well, I'll take that back. There was a small increase for the Gold Plan. The Board of Trustees decided to make the Gold Plan richer this year. We cut the deductible in half. Basically, there wasn't much difference between the gold and the silver. Now there's differences now. It's still almost a no-brainer not to take the gold, but we did charge a little more for the Gold Plan to the employees, but that was the only upcharge, and everything else is in balance. And the last budget is 143, the Cafeteria Plan, which has a deficit of $236,646, but they do have $1 million, $888,938 in reserves. I need approval for all 5 of those budgets.
Commissioner Dannenberg moves to approve. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Fritz. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries.
Also, in the proposed budget, I was asked by a commissioner to bring back what a 3% and a 4% raise looks like. For a $1,000 raise that are currently in the budget, it was an increase from a no increase budget of $241,110. A 3% increase would be an additional $165,743, and a 4% increase would be $301,361. And all this includes all benefits. So I know Commissioner Scott questioned me quite a bit at the last commission meeting about why are we not giving a percentage and why are we doing $1,000 raises, and we do have the money. We do have a surplus budget that could fund additional raises, but that would be up to the budget committee.
Just
Go ahead, Commissioner Small.
question, any salary, the $1,000 is already in the budget?
That is true.
Okay.
Yes.
So any additional increase would actually have to come out of fund balance, is that correct?
Well, it would come out of the surplus budget that we currently have, which is, it's on this sheet that it's $755,914 currently right now, revenues over expenditures. So that's with the $1,000 raise in the budget.
What is the cost of living for the last year? Or
Well,
last?
judges get a cost of living increase, and it was 1.2%.
Well, so you're suggesting we're in good shape, that we can afford a salary increase, as far as the budget's concerned?
According to the fund balance report, every fund could fund a 4% raise, even 3 or 4, except I did email Nathan because his fund is the fund I'm most concerned about with a 4% raise, and ask him his thoughts, and he said he could afford it with the fund balance he has. Could he sustain it? He doesn't think so. Over the years, it would eat away at his fund balance.
But now, EMS just got a pretty good raise as far as hourly raise, right? Yeah.
So some of our staff did. Some of our staff had a change in schedule. Annually, they lost money.
But they got more per hour and work less.
Yeah, more per hour, work less,
Right.
lost annually.
Okay.
But as far as a service-wide 4%, could we afford it for a year, maybe two? Yes, but after that, we would run out of fund balance and we would not be able to sustain the pay raise going
Right.
forward.
Because since they're making more on the hour, it would be a 4% would be a lot more than what it would have been prior to this. Right?
And I haven't done the calculations on that. I think ultimately it equals out. Because what you look at before was you were taking a lower hourly, but you were multiplying it by more hours, got
Okay.
more on the annual. Higher hourly now, work less hours, they get less on the year.
Are you having a lot of applicants now? I mean,
Yes.
people running to this like you thought?
I have a waiting list for paramedics for the first time in probably over 5 years.
Very good.
They're unhappy there's not a full-time position.
Very good.
And I said, okay.
Director Sweet, when,
Sir.
and I may have my facts wrong, my memory's fading, but wasn't there a year where I think you were in the same boat the jail was, where you weren't able to fill positions, so you went ahead and used the excess revenue code for a pay raise?
Yes, sir.
How long ago's that been?
I think it was about 3 years ago.
Okay, I was thinking 2, 3, okay.
I think it's a couple years ago. You
might have
cut
been.
positions and took that money and gave.
It was, yeah, 2019, I believe.
It was, I mean, Natalie was here then. I remember when we did that.
Right.
so.
Okay.
I was on commission then, so.
Yeah, that's where we did that salary assessment, looked at everyone else around us, looked at how low we were, brought us back more up to average. And we've been able to stay there for right now.
Moving right along.
Any further questions for Director Sweet? Thank you, sir. All right, Robbie, back to the proposals.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion.
Commissioner Smallridge, go ahead, sir.
I'd like to move that we provide a 3% salary increase for employees.
Motion on the floor is for a 3% salary increase for general fund employees, all employees.
Well, the ones
It has to be general fund, wouldn't it, Robbie?
I'm going by what's you listed
you.
here, Robbie.
That would be, I mean, I don't know if you can make a motion just for the general fund
Okay.
employees. I would say that
All
would
right.
be for all employees.
3%
I mean, I
salary increase for all county employees.
Yeah, and it looks like these other funds beyond the general fund could also handle a 3% increase. Is that a fair statement, Robbie?
Yes, except EMS would have a harder time sustaining that.
In the future?
A 3% increase for them is according to his budget that he turned in this year, it would be $108,365 additional dollars. Now, you could shift a portion of a penny to cover that, and then he would have any problem sustaining that raise, which is kind of what I was going to suggest anyway. Maybe, well, if you did a 4%, it would be 3/4 of a penny. If that would be a penny now is worth $190,000, which 3 years ago we were talking about 162. So,
Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
I just want to, real quickly, just let the budget committee know, as a sergeant at the sheriff's office, I'm having a difficult time keeping my people motivated to stay here. It's becoming really easy in today's climate for especially the sheriff's office employees to look for employment elsewhere. I know that Carlisle Tire pays $2 more an hour than our starting patrolmen making tires. They have to wear bulletproof vests and carry guns to work. So it's becoming rather difficult to keep at the sheriff's department, and I'm sure other departments are the same. Other departments at the county, the court employees. It's becoming difficult to keep good people here. And I just want this committee to think about, y'all are all smart guys, so you know, and girls,
y'all all know what happens when we start losing our good people here. We have to lower our standards. We have to forgive things that we would not normally forgive and hire people that would otherwise be undesirable. And especially at the sheriff's department, that is when you get yourself in trouble. So, just from my guys, from D shift patrol, they'd be very thankful for any raise that you all could give them, 3-4%, whatever it may be. But I've got one young guy that just got out of the Marine Corps, and this is pretty much his first job since then. And he can't afford to buy a house in Anderson County working here in Anderson County. He can't afford to buy a small house anywhere, Norris, Rocky Top, nowhere. Because his pay here, by the time he pays his insurances and all of his things, he can't afford to buy a house. Now, that's not our fault. Our taxes are pretty high, but the real estate market is very inflated right now, but to say the least. But those are some of the problems we're facing right now. So if there is a surplus in the budget, I can speak for my guys. They really deserve it and they need it. Thanks.
Robbie, do we have a second yet?
No.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve the 3%. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Creasy seconds the motion. Now we'll open the floor for discussion. Commissioner Fritz, go ahead, sir.
I was going to go on just a little bit further than what Mr. Waddell was saying, is that not only with the sheriff's department, just like they just sort of vote with, and they're going to get simulated to train the officers to be, hopefully the best officers they can be. Where you train the officers to be good, you want to build a team.
Good.
And also, that goes for even the EMS. We need, in the case of an emergency, you want the best, most qualified people to go after your loved ones in this county, to take care of them and to be there for them in an hour of need. And if it means diverting 3/4% over to them to help pay for this fund, then we need to do that. We need to take care of our highway employees. We need to take care of our, because they're very low paid. We need to take care of every single employee of this county to make sure that we are treating everyone equally and the same. And I would say, 3% is not enough, but we've got to stay within what our means. But I would even say, right now, we got the little extra funds, let's amend it, and let's go to 4% right now. And let's do everyone the same, and then divert whatever we have to keep the EMS and everyone functioning.
Let's go. I gotta go home.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Fritz, did you say amend it to a 4%?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Fritz moves to amend the motion to 4%. Do we have a second on the amendment?
I'll second.
Commissioner Denenberg seconds the amendment to 4%. Any discussion on the amendment to 4%?
Also divert the needed money to cover the raises.
You got that?
3/4 of a penny, yes.
Okay, all right. Any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner
I'll just say
Smallridge.
I'm happy with the 4% too. I went with a 3%, just, I guess, related to the cost of living as much as anything. But, I think our employees deserve it. I think this is a year when we can afford to do it. That hasn't been true every year. I think my first year here, we weren't able to do anything for employees going back. So this is a year when we're in pretty good shape, if I understand the budget, which I hope I do somewhat. But I would certainly support the 4%.
Any further discussion on the 4% amendment?
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson, go ahead, sir.
What department, or all departments included in this? Yes.
All departments, yes, sir.
Yes.
How much they gonna cost?
It's right here on this little.
It's on the handout.
It's in the very back. You're right. Well, yours is kind of messed up. The mayor has a question too.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I just have one question really for Robbie on, just to make sure. So if we're reducing the revenues that are coming in for the sheriff's department on prisoner boarding, I understand they're reducing salaries, but are they reducing that equivalent just to make, I'm just
Right, I
asking a
understand.
math question
Yeah.
for your surplus, like
That's-
because you're
that's
getting
why-
ready to take care of the
Right.
entirety of the surplus.
And I would hope they would do that, but I don't know until they, but I do have one solution, sort of, that I was gonna pass out tonight. I wanna pass these out right now. I'll give you the first one. I can't talk until I get back to the microphone, but I gave you one of these, but this is an adjusted one. And on the top line is the general fund that we're talking about discussing right now. When I looked at sales tax this month to give the sales tax report, and we're gonna hit 1.7 million, I have budgeted 1.5 million this year, so I increased the budget to 1.7 million, feeling comfortable that we can, even though we don't have a 3-year, a plan, we don't have 3 years of it, but increased, and then revenues went up to 31, 129, 933. Budgeted expenditures, I actually put in anything that we have discussed increasing, because I know Jay has, which is coming up today, is some increases. There was the $31,000 I put in your budget packet, Arcadis invoice that I want to put in the budget, because every year I come to you and ask for an amendment to that budget. There was also the cloud-based email system we just got for the sheriff's office and general fund that we haven't funded in next year's budget, that we are going to be billed for monthly. I put in the budget. Well, we still have a budget excess of $800,482. And if you take the stuff that's being brought before you tonight, it will reduce it $634,739. And with the raises, the 4% raises, we just shift 0.75 pennies to EMS, and I think possibly 2.5 pennies to the 171 fund. And we should to pay for capital outlay for cars, EMS. We got to start building that fund. I know Natalie talked about that a lot when she was here, and if we could get that fund built up, we can stop borrowing money, which we haven't had to the last 2 years. So luckily, we've had a good rollover. I know the governor's given us another $550,000 this year that we'll have to spend on vehicles, possibly, and we're also getting the American Rescue Plan Act over $14 million, or so we have money coming our way. But I think we can do the raises, shift some money to EMS, and possibly put some money in the 171 fund. That would just be my suggestion.
Commissioner Jameson, go ahead, sir.
How many employees we have?
Over 300 to 500. 546.
Well, here in this, what you gave me, if we, a current raise of 1,000 increases the budget, 241,000. That's just 241 people. What about these others?
Well, they're in other departments besides the general EMS. They're in other funds besides general fund. That's the general fund increase of 241,000. Sorry, I should have been more specific about that. Okay. 241 is for the general fund. EMS has their fund, highway, library, solid waste, Channel 95, which has one, and tourism. We have. That's what. Thank you. Yes.
Commissioner Smallridge.
You mentioned the American Rescue Funds. None of of that fund, or whatever amount we're getting, is in the budget at this point, is it?
That would be an amendment to next year's
Okay,
budget.
and so that will be an opportunity maybe for capital outlay and some other cars, automobiles.
Possibilities, yes.
Yeah.
And lost revenue. One of the things it does mention is lost revenues. I know tourism has lost some revenue because of the hotel motel situation. And even contracted prisoner, if we show that we've lost revenue because of COVID, we can use those funds to make up that revenue
Yeah.
for the general fund. So we have the other possibilities to make up that revenue.
I know there's some restrictions on
Yes,
those
there-
funds.
we don't know
but-
all the restrictions yet.
Yeah.
We're still learning a lot about that.
But,
so.
but at least it's something we can look forward to.
Right.
I think we found out in August, is that correct, what that amount?
Well, they're working on that guidance right now, and the funds are supposed to come out to the state, and the counties are getting it directly from the feds by the end of this month. But it could be another 60 days. Guidance, I said,
Uh-oh.
at any point, but it's not yet.
Any further discussion on the 4% amendment? Mayor Frank? That's all right.
Part-time employees, we have a lot of part-time employees that really work hard for Anderson County, don't have benefits, don't get vacation pay when they're sick, they lose their funds. Is there any way we could work something in for some of our regular part-time, not just seasonal part-time?
Well, like we did on the one-time payment, I have currently got a $250 raise in for part-time employees in this budget that we could just keep in there as is.
Commissioners.
Any further discussion on the 4% amendment? Let the record reflect that myself and Commissioner Waddell will have to abstain for cause on this vote. Commissioner Jameson, go ahead, sir.
I wanted to ask one other question.
Yes, sir.
Taking into consideration all of our employees, if we're talking about giving all of them a 4% raise.
Yes, sir. All full-time
What
employees.
is the total dollar amount that would be?
The total dollar amount for all funds is $742,331, with obviously general fund being the highest, which I think it's $542,471. I gave you my sheet. I made a little copy of place got on the ones you all have, and I apologize. Library fund would be $9,816, solid waste $6,131, ambulance service $144,487, tourism $4,389, highway fund $33,051, and channel 95 $1,896, for a total of $742,331. But each fund covers their own, has to fund their own raise. And if you look at the fund balance report, each of these funds can. I know highway shows a deficit, but Gary has a lot of unfilled positions, and really he has a big turnover in payroll, so he will be able to support a 4% raise also. That
Yes,
answers your
sir.
question.
Any further discussion on the 4% amendment? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Now we're on the original amendment that has been changed to the 4%. Any discussion on that motion? I will say this, I'm very glad to hear that EMS now has applicants who are lined up for jobs. That's great. The jail ain't in that position. Patrol division is not in that position.
But this will help.
This will help. And as a county employee, I certainly appreciate that. Again, we will have to abstain for cause. I would recommend to the Budget Committee and the full commission, those that will listen, that I believe we should certainly focus on the areas that are more severely hurting in our county government. If we have departments that have applicants because of a schedule change, the 24 on, 72 off, or whatever the case may be, that has attracted those applicants, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to do that in all departments. To take that in consideration of what they could do that would attract more applicants and retain more employees. And if pay is going to be what's going to help, then absolutely we should consider that. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries.
Okay. I guess also in section A, just to get a motion to approve the Arcadis invoice to put in the budget, the 31,739.
Have a motion by Commissioner Fritz, second by Commissioner Dennenberg to approve the Arcadis cost. That's 31,739. Is that right, Robbie?
Yes, that is correct.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay, and the last thing I have for, well, there's two more things for budget. One is Nathan wanted to have a discussion about the vehicles, and I'll let him lead that discussion. And two is Jay's email that he sent to everyone asking for, we would have to approve those as well.
Director Sweet.
I know I sent the email out, and I did want to be clear that I wasn't trying to speak for any other departments. But as I'm sure most of you are aware, this whole microprocessor thing going on, especially with chassis, getting vehicles is becoming more complicated. Heck, even the price for used vehicles apparently have gone up quite significantly. There are multiple departments, mine being one of them, that are looking to get vehicles in the next fiscal year. And I know historically, Commission deals with the operating budget, which makes sense, deals with the operating budget, then discusses capital outlay and what to do after that. And usually that pushes out to August, September, when those discussions start. Just bringing that to your all's attention, trying to maybe connect some dots, that this will impact any department that's wanting to get vehicles, especially those more less produced, like ambulance packages and police package vehicles. If their production stops because they make less of those anyways, it's going to make it more difficult. I've only talked to one manufacturer, and they said that it is causing an impact. What exactly that will mean, they're not 100% sure. But if we were to make an order soon, it could take an entire year or longer to potentially even get that order in. So just bringing that to your all's attention, not asking for any motion or action, just maybe trying to bring that to your all's attention as you have to sift through a lot of information and deal with a lot of tasks. So that was really the intention behind it.
Thank you, Director Sweet. Any questions for Director Sweet? Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Captain Sharp, if you would come talk to us about Sheriff's Office vehicle.
All right, I was going to kind of update you where we are currently. At the Sheriff's Office, we have 74 issued patrol cars, but then we have secondary and special use vehicles. On patrol, I have 9 vehicles that have over 135,000. Of those 9, 7 have over 153,000. And as a lot of you know, running emergency traffic, things like that, suspensions break down. So what we would like to ask at some point, if it hadn't already been done so, is for 10 vehicles. 9 would go to patrol and 1 to transportation for the jail. Over the last 2 years, we've been able to buy out of commissary money vehicles from Missouri to replace the transportation vehicles. If needed, we could look at that again. I will say last year, 2 of the vehicles we bought from Missouri were Explorers, and one of them has been in the shop quite often. We've only, in 7 months, only got about 1,400 miles on it because we buy them without warranty. So that's kind of slowed us down on that pace a little bit. Yes.
Commissioner Fritz.
This is what I was talking about last month at our budget meeting, is that there's a need, strong need, of putting police cars and ambulances into our operating budget. So the Sheriff's Department and the EMS can plan in advance and go ahead and be working on getting things like this ordered and in the process. I do know that even where I work, how hard it is just getting everyday things in because of the situation this country has been in over the years, and it's getting harder and harder to get it. And I understand that especially items such as this, will fall on that same thing. So the need for us to get this into our operating budgets and to, so they can start planning on this on a yearly basis is great. And for the extra vehicles he's talking about, we can probably take care of this extra money that's coming in from the state and stuff for these extra funds, to try to help get caught up there. But at least let's get the yearly things that we used to do, so we would have that constant influx of new vehicles coming into the sheriff's office and everything, and to the EMS, so we have new vehicles on a yearly basis being added to it, because they are truly operating the expenses instead of capital outlay.
If that's a motion, I'll make that
That's
second.
the motion.
Commissioner Fritz has a motion on the floor, and I want to make sure I understood the motion correctly. Are you approving Captain Sharp's request, or are
No.
you changing the procedure?
What we used to, doing it on a yearly basis for police cars and ambulances, and put it into the operating budget.
That, they ask for 450,000 every year for vehicles.
And what does EMS ask for?
They don't. They have to do a.
What's 2 ambulances? What do you need for 2 ambulances? I mean, I'm sure EMS and the sheriff's department would love that. I think they're just waiting on us, so.
We would have to have the money to do that, and we don't have the money to put in, to buy 450,000 and then 250. What is yours? 500.
So ours does go up and down. Next fiscal year was 393.
We don't have.
I think the year after that's 360. So it depends on what type of ambulance we buy.
Commissioner Denenberg.
Well, along those same lines, if these vehicles start becoming harder to obtain, they're also going to be far more expensive. And about 2 or 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, we had, I believe it was the volunteer fire departments, had come to us and talked about going ahead and ordering or contracting for a certain number of vehicles. So we would be purchasing at a set price, knowing that materials were going to start to increase dramatically. Well, I got news for you. With this COVID, things are going to increase drastically with these chips being of short supply. Materials are going to become, again, short supply. And I would certainly suggest that we start thinking very seriously of figuring out what it is that we're going to need for the sheriff's department, for the EMS, and whomever else, to see whether or not we can go ahead and contract at a price, knowing that the items are not going to be delivered, most likely for at least a year, and maybe even longer, depending on the shortages.
Mayor Frank.
I think what Robbie is saying is there's not a revenue stream, but we do know that we're going to, one of the things that is allowable under the American Rescue is lost revenue. So if we get assured clarification that we can use the reduction in jail revenue, that's a pretty big block of money. I mean, I think this year we estimated a $400,000 loss, but it's probably going to be more than that. For this, not for this fiscal year, no. Yes, yeah, for June 30th, ending June 30th, right. Yeah, for this, what we had budgeted.
About 500,000.
Okay, about 500. And then the governor did pass, I actually put that, I didn't get it in time for budget committee agenda, but I got it in time for operations agenda to make you aware that we are receiving an allocation from the governor's grant. It was reduced from last year's million, but we're still getting a 602,000. It has no limitations. So where originally he had put it out there for capital and those kind of things. So you could, to Nathan's point, you could put this on for an expenditure for June, and to Commissioner Fritz's point, you could in next year's budget, you could allocate that revenue and look at putting that in there as an annual allocation. But you could get ahead of all of this by, I mean, there's almost $1 million right there to cover equipment.
Any further discussion?
Good point.
And that's why I suggested the 171. I know we wanted an operating budget, but we can't buy ambulances out of the 101 fund. We have to buy it out of 118. And we don't have enough pennies to shift enough to buy ambulances out of 118 and $450,000 worth of patrol cars out of 101. So if we could buy it all, I mean, if it all went into 171, we could use it for both funds and other capital outlay needs.
So what you're saying is the 171 code is for capital,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Everybody can buy it at 171
Yes.
if we approve it.
In fact, 2 years ago, when we moved rollover, we moved it to 171 to pay for ambulances.
What Commissioner Fritz is wanting to do is to have each department have the capital purchases in their own particular budgets.
Right.
EMS isn't going to be able to do that.
After the 4% raises, if everything holds true, the changes that Tyler suggested today could change some of our revenue. We would have $492,239 available as a surplus. EMS is getting, that's with EMS getting 3/4 of a penny. 2.5 pennies is $475,000. If you put that into 171, we already have $120,000 or so in the 171 fund. That would be 500, almost 600,000 we're putting in that fund now. So, I mean, we could buy that's a start.
Any further discussion?
Could we clarify what we're voting on?
The motion on the floor is for a change in the capital purchases to go to each individual's budget, individual department's budget for capital purchases not coming out of one capital fund. Is that correct, Commissioner Fritz?
Well, basically, what I was trying to say, they're not really capital, they're operating.
Operating expenses. I got you.
Yeah.
They're reoccurring operating
But we're not voting on specific.
No, I don't know. I think we need to get back to Captain Sharp once we vote on this, if I'm correct. Because would this settle Captain Sharp's request?
No.
That's what I thought. Okay.
This wouldn't really purchase any.
Right, this is just changing our procedures.
Okay.
Any further, Commissioner Denenberg?
The benefit to that is?
They're guaranteed to start having, knowing that they're gonna be having a vehicle every single year.
They can go ahead and order them, and, you know, when they know it's gonna be a long.
Manufacturers, they'll be getting it, lined up.
Just want clarification, thanks.
Mayor Frank?
Just one of the things I want to say after my time here, just from a commission standpoint, and I'm completely understanding and in support of what Commissioner Fritz is saying for ongoing funding. But what ends up happening during hard times is these departments, in order to fund their operating expenses, many times will use the capital. And so if you look at, and I'm going to say Anderson County EMS and talk about ourselves, we cut ambulance, purchase in order to balance the budget. So if you do it this way, you will have to have a commitment as the budget committee. When we come begging, we need to transfer from here to here, you have to maintain that commitment. And to not letting that happen, because then the departments end up getting into a hole. Also, the other thing, and this is, I'm sure Captain Sharp and Nathan would like the freedom of having that in their budget, but from a commission standpoint, you don't always get 100% assurance that this is what we're buying. I mean, and not that they're doing anything, but you see what I'm saying? You, as the commissioners, maintain a level of control over the purchases. You get the guarantee the departments come before you and say, we want this many cars, or we want this ambulance, or this year, and Nathan's probably gonna get mad at me for saying this. But, I mean, for instance, he has to explain to you, this time we're gonna purchase the convalescent smaller vehicle, and this time we're going to purchase the box truck. So it does give you, I just want to caution you, you have more control over the capital purchases if you do keep it in a separate. And I do say that, Commissioner Fritz, just with all respect, I'm just cautioning everyone of what happens, because sometimes I have seen that happen.
Well,
even in my own department.
It was in the code for that.
Yeah.
And, we managed it that way.
Yeah, but we never have to come to you. So for instance, and this doesn't happen, but if we wanted to buy the most expensive ambulance, if we wanted to reduce the number and get Mercedes, top of the line, you all don't have any control over it.
Nathan shaking his head.
You can only get those, worked on at a Mercedes dealership, and that's in Knoxville. That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, here's my 2 cents.
You have a sheriff that drives a Geo Tracker.
Yeah.
And again, we only have the revenue to support one of the, like either the sheriff vehicles or the ambulances at this time. We don't have to do both at all.
Now, I will say this, but if it's okay, you know, if we had to do, that's my request, but if we had to do a portion now and a portion a few months down the road, you know, at least we'd have something in the, coming forward, so.
Well, none of this would be the July 1st.
It seems like we would be better off right now to do like the mayor's saying and use the money and take this opportunity to talk about getting it in the budgets in the coming year maybe. And, you know, I know Nathan needs ambulances. I know the sheriff's department needs cars. We can't sit up here and talk about it for months on end and they're waiting. Every month is a month they're behind. And I know when we ordered the last ones, we were almost a year getting them, and that was before the shortage. So, we're really going to be pushed out if we don't do something pretty soon. So I think the mayor's got a very valid point on it all, and I think that's probably the route we should take.
Motion on the floor is to,
I'll pull my second.
oh, okay. Well, now we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Fritz to change the procedure to where, I said cap it a while ago, Commissioner Fritz said it's more like operating. Right. Let's say vehicle purchases, that'd be good. Do we have a second on that motion? Do we have a second? Last call for a second. Motion dies for lack of a second. Now, getting back to Captain Sharp's request. Remind me of what your request was?
$450,000, that's approximately about $45,000 per vehicle for the purchase of vehicle and equipment. We would, right now, I don't see us changing it. We would be looking at buying 9 for patrol and 1 for transportation. With the camera system stuff, we have enough new to outfit these. I'm under the impression, so that would keep the cost right at under 45 car. I also have, in the near few months, as soon as we can have those vehicles coming in, I have about 11 cars for surplus.
So we may be able to sell some and get some money back.
I've got 7 actually, because surplus within the next 60 days. And then, of course, 4 of the vehicles that are also on the surplus are being used for parts or already wrecked.
You've heard Captain Sharp's request on behalf of the Sheriff's Department. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Denenberg moves to approve all 9 for $450.
Yes, the money's there, absolutely.
Motion by Commissioner Denenberg to approve. Do we have a second?
Where are we getting this money in?
I said if the
I
money.
mean, are you talking about the new budget next year? And we were already going.
Requested that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think tonight with Captain Sharp was more just saying kind of the state of the
union for our fleet and, or, instead of union, I'm not used to these late budget meetings.
You're usually at home by this time, aren't you?
Yes.
Watching them on video.
Yes, but just letting you know where we're at with our vehicles, and that based on the 450, kind of putting some numbers behind that and telling you what that 450 request means. Just, 'cause I know that Robbie and I had talked about, Nathan was going to bring it up, and I thought it was a good opportunity for us to say, hey, we've asked for 450, and this is kind of where we're at, this is why we're asking for it.
And I can, to speak to what the mayor had said earlier, I can bring in June, if we need to get them, go ahead and get them, the money set aside and ordered, we can probably get budget amendments, maybe from the governor's grant, and there is some COVID money out there also. I mean, there's opportunities, but I would like to have that to bring to you in June. But in the operating budget, I think the fairest thing, if you want, is to put that 2.5 pennies in the 171 fund. That also has the money available in a fund that we can purchase cars from, or EMS vehicles, whatever.
Shane?
That motion already died.
No, that was 450,000 in the operating budget for the sheriff.
Okay, but do we need a motion on that tonight?
If that's what you all want to do. If not, we have $492,000 in a surplus right now,
Okay.
possibly.
Commissioner Creasy, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I agree with the comments that a fellow commissioner made and the mayor made. I've seen us do it both ways, and I like the way we're doing it now. But I'd rather see us to have a separate workshop where we can address the vehicles both for the sheriff and the EMS in one group, so we can get an overall picture of how our money's gonna be spent between those two departments. Now, that's my personal desire, but I don't know if that'll work with everyone else or not. But I'd rather see us discuss the vehicle purchases in a separate meeting or a separate special call workshop or something of that nature.
Would you like that to be said after the current year, the upcoming year's budget is passed, or do you want that done before we
Well,
pass on?
were we discussing doing this in this year's budget, his vehicles?
There possibly go ahead if we could if they needed to get vehicles ordered in June, we have there's possibilities out there of getting a budget amendment for that amount of money for Nathan and Kenny to get those ordered. The mayor gave a couple examples when she was speaking, I can bring that back to you in June, but
Robbie, or the mayor, wouldn't it, is it your all's opinion, though, that we need to use that 600,000 that we're getting from the state? Isn't that, wouldn't that be wiser to use that money for,
yes,
take that money and say you can get this many cars and you can get this many ambulances, and instead of using our fund balance to do that, wouldn't that
that's
be
why
wiser?
our fund balance is sitting higher this year.
So when are we going to get that money, do you think, Mayor?
Let's see, I think they sent an agreement July, and Randy may remember last year, I think we got it like July 6th, or Peyton, and they're on track to do the same thing, so we just got the notice last week.
You're
that
helping
we'd be
me out.
getting the letter.
So
We're gonna get that.
So is there any way that we could go ahead and give approval to spend that money before we actually get it, knowing that we're not really spending it? It's not going anywhere until we take delivery on the vehicles or the ambulances, but it's going to be a while. So, or is there a way we can arrange to use that money and go ahead and give approval? If we have to use our money now and that money replace it, I'm not sure if you can do that or not, but.
I can find all that out and have it ready for you in June, in the next budget meeting. Because I would need to ask audit that question, but there's lots of times where we anticipate revenue that we haven't received yet, and we
Right.
increase revenue and increase expenditure codes.
All we're doing is going to be sending them a PO and waiting on delivery, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And delivery could be a good long
It could be, right.
Yeah.
But at least we could earmark that money for
Right.
for those, if I understood you correct, Mayor, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what you were getting to, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I like your idea.
Commissioner Fritz.
Well, then we let Nathan and them come back next month, and we'll give them a chance to maybe talk to the manufacturers and whoever, buyers and stuff, and get something in place. So we, I mean, that way we're taking care of both.
I believe that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, I think we got kind of confused and maybe sidetracked a little bit on now versus future versus different sources of where the money was coming from and all that. Good discussion, but I think now we're hopefully we're on the right track. So come back next month. Any further discussion, any questions for Captain Sharp?
I just wanted to comment, it just, you know, the money we were talking about coming from the governor, 600,000 is, and then the American Rescue Plan, seems to me we ought to, it's an opportunity to look at our capital in whole, you know, rather than doing something right now, and I know there's a concern about delay, if we don't get the order in, it's going to be delayed, and I know that's it's a serious concern, but I think we also need to look at the big picture with, you know, we're going to get over $1 million, is it, from the American Rescue Plan?
The American Rescue Act, Anderson County will receive $14.9 million. And at full commission, Operations Committee, and this was a recommendation from Finance Chairman Commissioner Yeager, that we have a full workshop for that $14.9 million, where everyone can talk about, you know, what commission's priorities are for those expenditures. So that's going to have a dedicated workshop. The issue, the stall on having that workshop is we're waiting for U.S. Treasury final guidance to come down. So right now, all we know is lost revenue, broadband, water, sewer. And there's not a lot of guidance about it. Rumor is that it's supposed to come down on May 10th or be released on May 10th, that guidance. Rumors are that it would be in line with CDBG, which CDBG you can use, you know, that goes for water and sewer, but CDBG also can fund anything from, you know, ambulances to buildings and different things. So we're going to have to see what that can be used for. The governor's is not restricted at all. We can use it for whatever we want. Something to keep in mind is every year, and this year is going to be no exception, you're going to have rollover funds. And in the prior, 2-3 years, you've used rollover to fund capital or percentage of it. You can still do that this coming year, and your fund balance is probably going to grow if we can take lost revenue. So for instance, the Sheriff's Department jail boarding, if it's $500,000 short, you can take 15, you know, of that 14.9 million, you'll be able to take 500,000 and just put it into your general fund. And then you can turn around and do whatever you want to do with it, which could be for cars and vehicles and, you know, whatever. So there's going to be, one way or the other, you're going to have a way. It might take moving the shells around, but you're going to have a way to fund as many vehicles as you want to.
Any further questions for the mayor? Any further discussion on this issue of vehicles? All right then, moving on. Robbie, go ahead.
Should I bring Jay in here to explain his?
Yes, please.
You bring Oliver in here. Greedy. Uh-oh.
Shane, is there any way that maybe we could get a motion for the 2.5 pennies to be put in the 171 fund? Possibly? So
I'll
we
go
have
ahead
that.
I'll go ahead and make that motion.
I'll second it.
We got a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Where'd Chuck go?
What's the motion? Out the door.
He had to go to the restroom.
To put the 2 pennies in the 171.
2.5 pennies into the 171 fund to move 2.5 pennies from 101 to 171, capital projects.
Thank you, sir.
Which would accomplish what, excuse me,
For the capital,
for
for the
his
vehicles.
capital.
We would have money in place to buy vehicles then too, also. at the beginning of the year.
His feet are bigger than me. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's wearing man shoes. He's
And
like size
EMS.
11.
Going out?
Your daughter was beating up my grandson. She's probably beating Tyler up right now, too. I'm talking about literally, not figuratively.
I copied mine. Yes, it's coming up next. In new business.
The motion on the
Yes.
floor is to move 2 pennies to the 171 fund,
2.5.
2.5 pennies to the 171 fund. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
With what you
Mr.
said.
Chairman, before I have to be in Oak Ridge for a speech, do you all need me for anything else before I slip out?
Where are you speaking?
There's a day of prayer event, and they've asked me to pray for government officials, so I will be praying for you.
Thank you very much.
I will be praying.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
They'll go away.
Which one we got? Why would he?
Oh, yeah. Jane Brown.
Keep it going.
Okay.
Go ahead, Director Yeager.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you. I don't get a chance to be with this body much, but it's good to see you, especially Bob and Jerry. I've seen Bob Smallridge in Denver. Catherine's around from time to time. Saw Chuck the other night and Jerry the other night, but it's really good to be back with y'all. It is. I'm coming before you, like I told you last summer. I've got a problem. You asked me to come back this budget cycle and see if we can address some of these issues. And you don't normally see me in front of this committee. I think we do the best job we possibly can to manage our budget. But I've got a problem. I need some extra, well, my problems are this. I've got office personnel shortage and office space. And those are the two issues I'm trying to address here. I told you back in August that I was going to be short in my budget. And that the reason for that is I had Barbara Love training our new paralegal that started in July. Well, that individual left the first week of January, and Barbara was only there for about a month. So we've been trying to operate the office with just 2 people since January 5th. And that way we have no budget shortfall. I don't need any additional money to get through this year like we thought we would. But it's put a tremendous strain on the office itself. The past 6 weeks, we've been interviewing people to fill our paralegal position. And we think we've got somebody that can come in and help us out just shortly. But the bigger issue is, do I want or do we need a county attorney, assistant county attorney versus trying to do it another way? And I've come to the conclusion that I don't want to hire an assistant county attorney at this point. The need is just not there. What I need is people to process contracts, bankruptcies, delinquent taxes, those type of things. More pleadings, discovery, complaints, more along the lines of what a paralegal can do. I went ahead and I pulled you out some exhibits of what it costs to bring an attorney in with benefits. And the entry-level starting salary for an attorney in Knoxville is $90,080. We can't pay that. With benefits, it's $134,240. That's a whole lot of money for this county to absorb. I can bring in a paralegal that's experienced, that has the ability to do complaints, discovery, answers, all this for $80,000 less. I think that's the route to take. That's the route I'm going to advocate, is bringing in one additional person, and that's a seasoned paralegal. I've also attached the average
paralegal 1 salary in Knoxville is $53,634. I'm gonna bring this person in at 46. That's below average, but I think that's in line with Knox County. Year before last, I checked with them, they were right around 55. So, I'm proposing bringing this person in at 46 plus benefits. The next issue is, I'm gonna need some part-time assistance. I'm gonna need to bring Barbara Love back for the 4th time out of retirement. She's volunteered to do this, and she'll train the new paralegal and get her up to speed on how to do delinquent taxes, or he. And she's comes by the office frequently, eat lunch with us, and she doesn't matter one bit, but I want to pay her. The other thing is, I'd like to reinstitute a program I had years ago where I used high school students that had an ambition to get in the legal field or criminal justice field and come in and do some minor secretarial work. And you'll see one of the major issues I have here besides personnel is space. I'd like to bring a couple of high school students in at around $10 an hour to help with minor secretarial stuff and specifically scanning. He's okay. Yeah. And scanning. What we've got, and I've got attached some pictures to this. Our file room is a mess. It's out of capacity. It's Exhibit 3. You've got 3 pictures of how it looks right now. I would like to start scanning these documents and keep them. Some of them may be able to be destroyed. I don't know, but I've got a lot of stuff that can never be destroyed. They are original documents from this county. They've got history to them. They've got legal history. There's old lawsuits that we look at from time to time. I just can't destroy them. Some of those can be scanned, but we do have things that can never be scanned, like the growth plan maps for this entire county, surveys, building plans, stuff like that. But anyway, there's some things that are going to need to be kept. But anyway, if you look at page 4, this is a picture of what Rex has in the juvenile court system. That's what I'm proposing that we get. We've got a similar filing system out at jail. We've got a similar one down at Daniel Arthur. They're rolling filing cabinets. We've checked the weight on our floor. Remember, that was an issue up here. We're okay, we're good. The lady that sold these to Rex on Exhibit 4, she will honor the price, the 2-year-old price, to put them in. This is the biggest thing I'm asking you for, and it is $25,000, I believe it is, to put these in. It's a one-time cost, but I've got the actual quote attached. It is $25,108. It's Exhibit 5, and she'll hold that for us, the salesperson. Exhibit 5 also has the dimensions of it. Our room, again, has been checked out. It can handle this. That will give us capacity in that room for another 10 years. So I think will help dramatically. The next thing that I need is we have people that unfortunately the county has to pay for the cremation. These people are indigents. The ladies that work in my office do a very, very good job of trying to find somebody to come and get the remains of these people. It's a very sad situation when you die and you have no one, no family member or anyone to come get your body. Well, what we do is we'll hold these until somebody comes forward and reimburses the county for the total cost. We've done, I think, a very good job over the years of getting the county's money back, but we have some of these, what they call cremains, which are remains of cremated people. And unfortunately, they're housed in my office in a closet with office supplies. That's not the proper place for them. We can buy a vault that'll keep, put it out next to the evidence building at the jail. We've got the lowest bid we can. That's got an airtight gasket on it. It's waterproof for $2,500. This will take care of our concerns for at least 10 years as far as storing cremains. My office manager, Nicole, has volunteered to landscape the area. put out flowers, do whatever it takes to make it an honorable place for somebody's last stop. But, I need that. It's not right to keep these people in the closet mixed in with office supplies and umbrellas and whatever. But anyway, I want to start the scanning project. That's item C on page 4. To do that, I'm dealing with a 15-year-old copier that I bought in 2006. It still runs. I don't want to get rid of it, but I'd like the ability to lease one. I've got one from Catherine Alshmiri in purchasing. I looked at her quote, and she gave me $60 a month. That includes toner. I can get that. I called around today. I can get that for about $38 a month. It might not do everything Catherine's does, but it'll do the scanning, the copying, the faxing. So that number 60 a month is high. I think I can do it for about 38. But anyway, that would last us another 15 years. The ladies that work with me, they've heard me preach this. We take care of those copiers. We don't slam the hood. We're responsible for those. And if you look at my, it's actually 05 model we bought in 06. You'll see that it's in great shape, and I'll keep them both. Denver, if you cast your vote before you leave, sir, I'd appreciate that. It'd be very honorable of you.
I'd love to. I'm gonna have to go out here and do the budget.
Okay. The last thing that I'd like to talk to you about is we're okay with office size now if I can take care of the file room and those modifications. But in the future, and I'm talking about probably in 5 years, I'm going to need some more office space. The ideal location is the drug court that's right next to us, the drug court administrator. I don't want to displace this lady, and there's no reason at all to displace her at this time. But at some point in the future, she's going to need to move to a bigger location, and I'll need those spaces that are immediately contiguous and adjacent to me. If that does happen, I'd like to have that space reserved for us. And again, I'm not asking to move her out. I love her to death. It's Winnie Gass. She does a wonderful job for this county. But if she moves, I'd like to know that we've got that spot before somebody else takes it. And it's vital to us. I have nowhere else to go except those offices right there or another location somewhere that's fragmented, not in the same place. But anyway, in summary, I've got that on page 5. We're looking at hiring just a paralegal. It's a new position. It's not an existing position, as opposed to the assistant county attorney. There's close to an $80,000 savings by going with the paralegal position. I need $11,000 basically for part-time money. That's a one-time shot. We'll see how it goes with the students. I'm hopeful that they can get all my stuff scanned. And again, Ms. Love will be here for about 6 weeks to train a new paralegal. The office space issue can be solved simply by scanning and getting this filing system for the documents. And we believe that's going to take us long, over 10 years, if we can get that shelving system in there. It's a very orderly system, but probably the best thing about it is that it's safe. If you look at a couple of those pictures, I've got bankers' boxes stacked 5 high. My office manager goes back there with a folding chair to get up there and pull these boxes down that weigh 30, 40 pounds. That's just not safe. I tell her not to do it. I tell her to come get me or come get Jeff, the custodian, and we'll get it down. But sometimes she's hard-headed, and that's just what she's going to do. But anyway, I need to get that issue fixed. But on top of that is the lease of the scanner, copier, fax machine. But I've tried to put this all in a little packet for you with the quotes, the salary starting stuff, and the justification for the salaries. I took this off salary.com, and it is specific to the Knoxville region. But I'm here to answer questions and ask you more than anything to approve this as presented.
Commissioner Fritz.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
After going with the commissioner in Denver and things like that, walking the different grave sites for indigent people, basically like in Knoxville and everything. I mean, it's very discouraging, disheartening things when you walk up there and see everybody that
break your heart.
supposedly there's no marker or no identifications or no nothing. And, why is that we keep, ashes in a closet or something? Why don't we bury them somewhere and put a little marker with a name thing or something?
Well, that's a great question, and the reason we do that is we're hopeful in the future we can have somebody come forward and that's happened. And they'll reimburse the county for the cost and we'll be whole again, because we end up having to put out almost $400 if we can't find somebody. And when we do that, we release the cremains back to them, and that's why it's so important to have a place with dignity and respect to put these individuals. We're hopeful that somebody does come, and maybe after 10 years, we might be able to bury them, but right now, we don't have a pauper cemetery, and right now, we don't, we used to have one years ago down at Blockhouse Valley, you might be aware of that, but we don't, when we start, that's why we only do cremations, and some people ask me that question. We just can't bury people for that kind of price, and we just, it's difficult to get return, get our money back on that, and we don't have the location right now. But I hope that answers your question. I'm agreeable after maybe 10 years of doing something like that, if we can find a property and keep it up nice, but this place will be nice, I promise you, that we're talking about. It'll be weather sealed, weatherproof, and it'll be landscaped around the area. It's just not gonna be a vault we cast out to the side somewhere at the jail. Have you been on the jail grounds, you'll see it's well manicured. I think they cut it twice a week or something like that, but I'm sure they'll do a good job with this project too.
Commissioner Dannenberg.
I would like to make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Dannenberg is approved as presented, seconded by Commissioner Fritz. Any discussion? What's the total dollar amount on this?
Well, y'all be happy to know I've already included this in the budget that that we presented earlier. For his reoccurring costs for the 2 employees and the copier lease, it's $81,115.
Okay.
And the one-time cost of $27,627 for the shelving unit and the vault, which I think we don't need to put in the budget. We can get out of capital improvement
Okay.
fund. So, and we've already, I included that in the totals I gave you, so, because I kind of figured.
So we're already there.
Right. So we have,
Congratulations, Jay.
Well, I appreciate you, Robbie. I was gonna offer, I checked with Hal just before I came in, and we made $127,000 off delinquent taxes. And again, I'm not doing the title search thing. This is just our 10% off Oak Ridge and North. So that money's out there. It's gonna go to the county one way or the other. So I want you to know what we're doing before we move forward with this, and I don't want any surprises, but if at all possible, I'd like to move forward with the shelving if this passes, and so we can start moving that, making some big changes here.
I can go ahead and purchase the shelving out of this year's 171 fund that we have 120,000, and we still have funds available in that. So you just see me tomorrow and we'll get them ordered.
All right. But we still need to vote on it tonight, right?
Yes, to put
Okay.
this in the budget, yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
I appreciate all of y'all, I really do.
Don't give that baby that sucker.
All right.
It's for
never
Jay.
give supper. I thought there might be a time today. He's found it and he wants it now.
So the only thing we have left on the agenda is Brian. He has a couple of agenda items, maybe just one, and then new business, I have 3 budget amendments that we can get passed really quickly. But Brian, you're up. Sorry you had to wait so long. I couldn't hear you anyway.
Microphone. Let's see, really the main item is the Microsoft 365 email system for the sheriff's department. And why I'm speaking for the sheriff, I'm approaching you all, as it stands right now, EMS, the county government itself, AC trustee, all of the offices are under our mail system, are funded through my department. The one department that isn't is the sheriff's office. The mail system that we just put in and changed to is not truly funded for the year. Robbie and I were discussing it the last few days and a week or so when we put this together. When we were attacked by the Chinese hit that came with the 0-day attack in March, and that process, when that happened, we moved the email systems from an on-premises in the building to external 365 in the cloud. So in a nutshell, our email is now in the cloud. We don't have funding for the sheriff's side for that at this moment moving forward. So I have to establish, normally the sheriff would do that or Tyler. As it stands now, working with Robbie, I would like to see that just go ahead and be moved into IT and I manage that because it's sort of, well, I'm having to work with other departments to pull funds to pay that with my P card. And it's really, I guess the best way to say it, it would be logistically a little more straightforward if it were in my department instead of on the sheriff's side. And Tyler, the sheriff, and everyone involved are okay with that moving to my side. But I do need a funding arm for that.
And I have a budget amendment. That's the first budget amendment of the extras I gave you for the $3,200 out of unassigned into data processing, other contracted services for IT, and to pay for the Microsoft for the remaining 3 months, April, May, and June. This will be in next year's budget at $23,000 between general fund and the sheriff. But Brian can tell you too, we're losing, because even though we're spending $23,000, we are also getting rid of a couple of other things that
Yes.
kind of offsets each other, a server and some other items. But I've already included those numbers in the budget too that we talked about earlier. So I just need you all to make a motion to approve this amendment and include in the budget also.
Yeah, we're coming off of about 8,000 of expenses to go with the cloud route. We no longer have to purchase internal servers to handle that mail load. We moved that to the cloud, so it won't wash that, but it will help quite a bit, probably about a third of it.
Move for approval?
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. And then I have one other item. This is, that's the other half of an item, whatever you want to call it. We didn't have numbers. We're having issues with, we have no phone that is an extra phone in this building at this point. And what's happening is we've got different departments that need phones, and that brings up another discussion, which could go on into another discussion. But I have no hardware in the building unless a department provides it for phones. So in normal circumstances, say Robbie loses a phone, we go and Robbie purchases a phone. In that situation, it's put upon the department head. Now, in the past, this was predating me, but there was a process where the telephones were funded by the general fund, I guess, or some sort. I'm hearing this information from other department heads who, as far as it goes, I'm handling the 307 code for the phones themselves. And as far as the funding for the bill, the carrier bill that we get every month, and then it's paid through AT&T and our vendors, could we have some type of money, not a lot, I think we were talking 900 or 1,000 or something to purchase some phones. I know one department in particular needs a phone. Well, I could say 2 departments need phones. Do we continue putting the department heads to purchase the phones individually, or should we have a department code for phones, if I'm making sense? Now that you have IT, I guess that's.
Yeah, because the last few departments that needed phones, we've asked them to pay for them. EMA purchased some phones recently because they went on our system, and I'm not even sure who else.
Through the years, I've asked them to pay for them, and I get met with questions, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Denenberg.
if we were to do that, would the department that needed a phone then reimburse back into the fund?
I think that's the problem we're having. The departments don't want to pay for the phones even though they want.
Ooh.
They don't have the money, or there's always a reason, and I don't mean that facetiously, but usually they've got other things on their mind, and when it comes to a $300 or $400 telephone purchase, it's not what they planned on.
Well,
And
you know, the thing about it is, I mean, don't they have figured into their budget equipment, like a copier, scanners and that sort of thing? I mean, I would think that
I mean, you could even.
telephones would certainly be part of that,
Yeah, they do have like, I mean, office supplies, other supplies and materials. I mean, the particular part that we're talking about now has funds in both of those codes, and I told Brian just to tell him to use that. But, and I think if a department didn't have it, then they should just come to commission and ask for the funds, is how I would
Well,
approach it.
But going back to the fact that when a phone goes down, the person probably whose desk it's on or whatever, probably needs a replacement pretty darn quickly.
Right.
And if we have one
True.
available,
Then you can
I could
reimburse.
see it being put in there and then them having to pay back into the fund for a replacement for it.
I agree with that too.
That could work. The big issue is getting the phone, just like the cars, it's with the same.
Yeah,
chip
exactly.
shortage. It's taking months. We've got stuff backward to September at this point. If somebody comes and needs a phone, it's gonna be hard for me to give it to them. What I've been told from our hardware vendors, where these chips are affecting cars, and other vehicles, they're really affecting IT, that's what we
Sure.
are. So we're being told to be prepared to scrounge and not have toward the end of the year into new computers and equipment, so this might get a lot worse before it gets a lot better.
I think it will.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion that we need on this, Brian?
Well, Robbie,
I mean, if you want to do $1,000 and buy a couple of phones, then we could get reimbursed IT when a department needs one, they would have one available.
they're roughly $359.12 a piece. That's with their $15 license for the year, so it would be nice to have a couple of those around.
Well, and I got a lot I'd like to ask about these phones, but I know we've been here for 2.5 hours. And I think we can have the discussion for what's right or wrong with these phones between the departments and IT and the general fund, the unassigned fund, whatever. But if $1,000 is what we need to do here tonight, so you can go ahead and order a couple of these phones to have on standby, I'll go ahead and put that in the form of a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Creasy. Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Shane, I agree with you. It needs to be some further discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to work this out at some point to where how we arrived to where we are, where we need to go.
So there are three other budget amendments really quick. The first one is from conservation, from other contracted services, increasing $800 and decreasing gasoline to finish the year in contracted services for mowing.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
Okay, second one is from solid, oh, sorry.
It's all right, go ahead.
Second one from solid waste, out of their restricted for public health and welfare, $15,000, into other waste disposal contracts with private agencies, $15,000, to pay for the increased waste tire disposal due to COVID-19 stimulus funds spent on tires. They were having a hard time keeping up with those funds.
Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
Okay. And the
Motion
last
carries.
thing I have is from the law director. It's decreasing 5 funds, $2,800, and increasing other contracted services, $1,100, office supplies, $1,400, and dues and memberships, $300.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Denenberg moves to approve. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
That's all I have.
Do we
Been a long
have
meeting.
any, what happened to my agenda?
That was actually new business, I'm sorry.
Any old business? Any more new business, any more old business? Commissioner Fritz?
The new business, two things real quick. There's a lot of emails going out about moving meetings elsewhere because of the distances and stuff like that. I just got one question. Is this room here cleaned after use and everything like that on a daily basis and stuff? Like when we come in here today, was it clean?
No.
We can certainly confer with Roger
Because
Lloyd.
one question, the comment was made by a fellow commissioner, like you, what senior did, with the construction, everybody like that going in, you don't know who's going in, this, that, and the other. Well, you look out here on the seats, inmates only. People coming in here all day long, having me, using this, room, you don't know who and everything is coming in here. Over half over half the, commissioners are senior citizens and are, at-risk, people. And we still have to take care of ourselves regardless. So, I have concern with, about, whether this area is cleaned or not.
I do know on the weekends, they have someone that comes in and cleans the whole courthouse.
But,
Other than the work we're doing, that our custodians do day to day. Now, I don't know that they come in clean here before, but I can ask that question.
No, I even had to take some of these partitions that were done, stuck underneath the counter here.
And with the courts using our courtrooms. it's the
And
same
these
thing.
things. Absolutely.
With the court using our courtroom and everything, they're using our equipment, our chairs, everything like that. My chair that I'm sitting in, and I haven't been here in 6 months, it's broken. You can't raise it, you can't lower it, you can't, move it around. And my backside's so sore sitting here for the past 2 hours, I would be ready to go out in the audience and say, if, they're using our stuff, then they need help pay to replace our chairs and everything else, not, maybe rely solely on county commission to take care of the expenses of using our room and our equipment. Because I need a new chair, if I'm gonna have this here, because this chair here is broken.
I think that was the chair I had at some point, if you feel like you're going this way.
So we need someone to, look into, making the necessary.
My chair works.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Fritz, I was trying to keep up with you, sir.
Good comment.
Is there a motion? Or you just want to request to see if we can find out if they have been cleaning already?
I'd like, that be a motion for both of them, that someone look into, make sure this area is clean after use, and then also that, they take care of the repair and replacement of our, stuff. Because, just like, I don't know how many other chairs might be that way, but my chair is broken and needs to be replaced.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? I'll say this, I mean, I'll certainly vote for this motion simply because I'd like to know myself what their procedures are. But let me remind this committee that we have courtrooms in the courthouse that when they have court cases, they're subpoenaing witnesses, they're subpoenaing defendants, they're subpoenaing plaintiffs, judges, magistrates, clerks. I mean, there are all kinds of people that are in and out of these rooms on the 3rd floor. This is the courthouse. That's kind of a main purpose that we provide, every county provides. I understand this is designated the commission room, but it's also a courtroom that,
And we're allowing them to use, which means they need to present it back to us in the proper fashion.
and I guess what I'd like to know, and hopefully we can find out if this motion passes, is what requirements are there? Are there any requirements exist that tell the courts, i.e., I guess the judge's office, the clerk's office, whomever, that if any property in here that is bought by county taxpayer money is damaged, what recourse or what responsibilities do they have to pay for the repairs of such? I don't know if there are any. Maybe that's something Jay, we could find out from Jay as well. And I will say this, I don't know if it's kind of relevant or not, but I can remember when Budget Committee used to meet at 6 o'clock. And we changed that to 4 o'clock, which is fine with me. I don't have a bit of problem. It's actually more convenient, and I think department heads, it's easier on them to come to our Budget Committee meetings while we're starting them during regular business hours. I don't have a problem with that. But sometimes court goes on till 4 o'clock. Sometimes, I think the last month's meeting, we ran out child support court so that we could come in here and start our meeting. So I agree with what Commissioner